Hi everyone, this is Rosa. I just wanted to apologise for the audio on this episode. It seems like my microphone decided not to work that day, or perhaps it was me. I don't know. I prefer to think it was the microphone. Again, apologies. We hope it won't happen again. Hi, welcome to the F1 Time Portal, a Formula One history podcast started by two Formula One devotees. I'm your host, Rosa.
And I'm your paperback rider host, Luigi. And today we're taking you back to the third part of the 1966 season, race review season. So let's go. You're going to run out of thesaurus
I know,
words.
I'm going to have to start using the thesaurus. Devotees is a little bit religious-y. I hope you don't mind that too much.
I don't think it's too religious.
But I like it. We are devoted to the Formula One legacy and history.
Yeah.
I like it.
Okay.
And Paperback Rider, what are you going to say about that one?
I think that's the best of the Beatles songs I've referred to.
Okay.
So what did I say? Drive My Car, Yellow Submarine for 66. And I think Paperback Rider, it's also not anyone's favourite Beatles song.
No.
But it's pretty good. It's got a little bit of a riff to it, you know?
We are getting further and further away from it being Formula One related.
Yeah, true. That's called running out of steam.
Yeah, we struggled with the yellow. We found that the Renault was yellow. But, I'm not sure Paperback Writer is going to be... Although, Mike Lang, there you go. It's Mike Lang's book.
He's a paperback writer. Yeah. Although it's hard. I've got the hardcover version.
I've got a hardcover too. All right, let's keep going. This is a very involved season, isn't it?
Yeah, so this is the longest we've done so far. And it feels like it. Like I feel like we're deep into 66 and we're getting all the details out of it.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get more details the further we go.
I know.
So we're up to the German Grand Prix. This is race 6 of 9. At the Nürburgring, the infamous Nürburgring, August the 7th, 15 laps. There are 27 drivers with 30 participating. We've seen that a couple of times now.
I think that means that like people we probably don't go into it, but people don't make qualifying. I think that's what happens. There's a cutoff.
Ah, yes, of course, yes. But the other race went the other way around. That could have just been a typo. like Luigi turned up and said, "Can I have a run? Can I have a go?" So non-qualifying or issues with cars. Like, that race where Clark had that race he couldn't start because he got hit in the eye with the bird.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't get to say the grid formation is 4x3x4. That implies a much wider grid.
Yes, track.
Otherwise, it wouldn't fit 4 wide. Yeah, track. So the race organisers allowed 11 F2 cars to join this race. And this was to give the spectators more interest, as they did this in 57 and 58. And there would be separate race honours when they do that. And I actually really like it when they do this because you actually are shown the future F1 drivers in action.
Well, funny you should mention that because if you go through those F2 drivers, there are some pretty awesome names in there. There's well, you probably know more of these than I do. I know Jackie Ickx. I know Joe Schlesser. But there's Pedro Rodriguez, who I think is the brother of the other Rodriguez. I don't know.
Ricardo.
Yeah. There's Bertoise and there's Courage in the Lotus. So some well-known names in there.
Yeah, to me, all of those are well-known and they all play a part in the Formula One story. And I'd love it if they did that nowadays because you know how these Formula 2 drivers are not able to get the drives because the drives are held by long-term, like a lot of people like Alonso that just won't retire. We're in mid-24 thereabouts. Wouldn't it be cool if they had a track where the F2s are on at the same time?
So that would be amazing.
They're going to be sitting on the F1s, but then you can see them on the same track. And
be awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, it's good to see it anyway. We don't get it too often. And they only do this on this track because the track is so long that there's so much space for them not to get in each other's way too much. So these drivers will make an impact and they will come and show their impact in due course. So in terms of preparation, though, and the race itself, the Brabham and the Eagle teams were having a very tough time, with Jack Brabham's car having to be reassembled and Gurney's car suffering an engine fault at the very beginning of the weekend.
Oh, well, they're finally feeling some of the pain that all the other teams faced, particularly Lotus.
Yeah, and like Brabham have been rock solid up to this point. So, it's a real surprise. So on the first day of practice, this reminds me of a correction. I thought I should have made it to you in the last meeting, but because it was an Italian name, I thought, Rosa probably knows it better than me. I don't think it's Scarfotti. I think it's Scarfiotti.
Yes, Scarfiotti. Yeah.
But I think when you were telling the story about how Surtees, you called him Scarfotti.
What?
And I thought it could be a different driver. But I thought, Rosa, she's pretty good with those Italian names. And maybe I was remembering it wrong.
What happened is that you heard me incorrectly. I shouldn't say that. It's recorded.
Yeah. So on the first day of practice, Scarfiotti in the Ferrari set a strong time. And he's not their top driver, remember, because not only was he using the old Ferrari model with the older, lower power engine, Bandini's meant to be their team leader, and Parks is their new little shining star, But unfortunately, Guy Ligier in the Cooper spun off during slippery conditions and broke his leg. So on the final practice day, Clark in the Lotus set a blistering time of 8 minutes 16.5, still using the old Climax engine, so he's not rushing to that H16. Surtees secured second in the Cooper, which is really impressive, 8 minutes 18, followed by Stewart in the BRM and Scarfiotti rounding out the front row. Brabham was actually fifth, and Holm took a terrible 15th. It's not a good sign. That Brabham has won the last 3 races. So what's he doing with that car?
No, that's definitely not a Brabham track then, hey? What's happened to Bandini and Parks? You didn't even mention them.
Yeah, we, as you know, we don't go down the whole grid. We just sort of focus on the main players' grid positions, and they qualified 6th and 7th with Bandini in 6th. So in the F2 class, Ickx did an amazing job in setting a time of 8 minutes 52, and he was actually the only F2 driver to set a time below 9 minutes. So
pretty impressive.
Now we're to the race. Yeah, it is actually. And we all, those of you that know that he has a part to play in Formula One. At race start, Surtees launched into the lead.
Was starting well, isn't he? We've never seen him get a nonsense start from Mr. Lang.
Yeah, but he is British though.
Oh, okay.
But then he only calls out.
He points
British
out
drivers.
the British. What's his name?
Yeah.
Started it? Not
Hawthorne.
That's right.
Yeah. So maybe it's a sign that he doesn't do them, and you're right. He's a good starter. I think he is. I don't often hear of him fluffing it too much. So Surtees was leading, followed by Brabham, Bandini, and Rindt. Bandini's up there suddenly. The 3-litre F1 cars were pretty much leaving all the other cars behind. So finally, those super strong cars were given the leeway to stretch themselves, you could say. So the race had barely started when, unfortunately, a serious incident took place. Someone apparently rammed the back of Taylor's Brabham, and it was thought to be Ickx in the F2 car, and this caused Taylor to spin off the circuit. The car then burst into flames. The burns sustained by John Taylor unfortunately led to his passing 4 weeks later.
So just a moment to remember John Taylor. I know that we don't talk about him very much in the podcast, but to make it to F1 is a very good feat in itself. So we like to kind of remember these drivers who gave up their life. He was 33 years old. He was from the UK, participated in 5 races, but did participate in many, many non-championship Formula One races. He scored a point for 6th in the 1966 French Grand Prix. So, yeah, we remember you, John Taylor.
So as is the norm, so thank you for that, Rosa. As is the norm, despite what must have appeared a horrific scene of a car on fire, the race continued, which is just so hard to understand, isn't it? It's just hard to appreciate this.
Yeah.
So at the front, Brabham fought to pass Surtees and finally succeeded within the lap.
Remember, these laps are like over 8 minutes long, though.
Yeah. And remember,
that's a long time.
And don't forget, Brabham's car is not super powerful, but everyone expected the 3-litre cars. Like that Surtees, that Cooper Maserati was like 360 brake horsepower, So it's surprising, isn't it, to see Brabham passing him on this power track.
Mm.
So the leading pair were closely followed by Rindt. Clark was having a tough time of it, though, as his Lotus was driving with Firestone tyres instead of the Dunlops, which he was accustomed to. So it's the first time we hear tyres be talked about
yes,
a bit
it
too.
is. Yes.
So the leading trio were holding the same order, with Brabham just ahead of Surtees, but Rindt was a further 15 seconds back. So Brabham really was in a zone to pull away that much. At half distance, Surtees was right on the tail of Brabham, and if Brabham made even the slightest of errors, Surtees would be back in front. At this stage, Rindt was about 60 seconds behind, and Gurney was further back in fourth. But he was facing a big challenge with Holm on his tail, who was now on a charge. Remember, he qualified poorly in that Brabham. But this charge soon ended as he coasted to a halt out on the circuit. Yeah, well, Ferrari's fortunes were at a low ebb. The three cars were 8th, 9th, and 10th.
What? Didn't they win a race not that very long ago? And they nearly won the next race? They must be missing Surtees.
Yeah, they are missing him big time, I think. Because at the front, Surtees was now driving without a clutch, and he found the handling of his car deteriorating. And this finally allowed Brabham to pull away, and Brabham ended up winning the race by 44 seconds. Surtees was second, and Rindt a lonely third. And no doubt a very painful third for him, because he got thrashed by his number one in the team. So yeah, and Beltoise, and just for FYI, Beltoise in the Matra won the F2 race.
So after what's this, race 6, Jack Brabham is on 39 points. Graham Hill is on 17, and Surtees and Rindt, they're on equal points on 15. With Jackie Stewart then on 14. And on the constructor side, we have Brabham Repco on 39, Ferrari on 23, and BRM on 22.
Yeah, and this is Brabham's 4th win in a row. So he's really...
God, he's doing a Clark.
He is. Doesn't feel like it in a way.
No, it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, but he's doing it. And I mean, a couple of... Out of those 4, I think only one he sort of inherited. The other 3, he did win it. You know, I mean, in this one, Surtees would have been on his tail if not for an issue. So, but he was in front when it happened. So that's important. Okay, so we're up to race 7 of 9, the Italian Grand Prix, at our famous and favourite track, the Monza Grand Prix, the slipstreaming track. We love the stories on this one. So September 4, 68 laps, 20 drivers in the race with 22 participating, and a grid formation of 3x2x3. So you ready for this one, Rosa?
Ready.
The home of the Ferrari team?
Yes, ready.
Excellent.
For them to make a comeback.
Yes, that was a pretty bad last race, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was not a good, and yeah, I don't know what happened there, considering their car was powerful.
No.
Yeah. So as there were 4 weeks separating the German Grand Prix and the Italian Grand Prix, this meant that the Italian race was perhaps the most interesting of the season from a development perspective, because Honda was making its season debut, finally. Took them a long time to get this new car ready.
Yes.
Their new heavy car. Ferrari had also modified their engine to increase the power to 380 brake horsepower.
Okay, that's good.
And just in time for this track, actually. BRM reappeared with their H16 engine, so they were sticking to their guns.
Sticking to that mammoth thing, yep.
Yeah. And can I just suggest people Google BRM H16 engine, have a look at it. Even me as a novice, it looks like maybe you need to look up the Ferrari
like V12.
1960. Yeah, look up the V12 and the V8, and you'll see the H16 looks like a monster. Like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm assuming the mechanics would be like, oh, why am I in this team? Like, it takes me double the time to do the same thing as the V8 engine over there, you know, with the other team. So Cooper came along actually with a modified Maserati V12 engine, and Eagle were making a debut finally with their long-awaited Westlake V12 engine.
That is funny. All of the engines have arrived at once.
Yeah.
Amazingly, Phil Hill entered this race driving the Eagle with the old engine. I kind of feel sorry for him a little bit. He's sort of really fallen from grace since he's a champion. He's a champion. He was 1961 champion in the Shark Nose. I think the Shark Nose is more famous than Phil Hill.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, we don't have Phil Hill's face on our logo.
No,
we've got the Shark Nose Ferrari on our logo.
Yes. Anyway, he's in this race, weirdly.
Yeah, weird. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that means I have to now say P Hill and G Hill all the time. But let's see what happens.
Let's see,
yeah, I don't think Phil Hill's a contender. So on Friday practice, Ferrari was having it all its own way in what we now call their home track.
Well, finally we can say that without checking.
Yeah.
But hang on. The Cooper does have a Maserati engine in it.
I just don't think the Italian fans care.
No, they don't care.
I'm sure that Cooper is painted green.
Yes.
And green means enemy.
Yeah. Yes.
I wonder if they put a big Italian flag on the side just to try to get what they could possibly get,
Yeah.
So on the first day, the new driver Parks, well, he's not a new driver now, but he's still very early in his career, was the fastest, followed by his teammate Scalfiotti and Bandini. So Bandini's not exactly leading the way. It's practice, but practice is qualifying in those days. So Bandini's not really showing the Surtees traits, if you know what I mean. Yeah, Ginther was fourth fastest in the all-new Honda, which is a very good showing for this season debut.
Well, I'm excited. At least Ferrari's there or thereabouts. It's good.
Yeah.
Good omens so far.
And I want to see a good competitive Ferrari because that just adds so much to the sport, doesn't it?
Absolutely does.
BRM, on the other hand, were having a torrid time. Their car was having all sorts of clutch and gearbox issues related to their H16 engine. Out of desperation, they decided to retry one of their old V8s from a nearby exhibition.
What? Are you kidding me? Like it's an old car from a museum? What?
Yeah.
What? That is.
Probably last year's car or something. I don't know, but
how long was it there?
It reeks of desperation, doesn't it?
Oh my gosh!
Really, really
so how
does.
did that pan out for them?
I don't know. Let's see. I think it might come through. If it doesn't come through, then nothing good came of it. Do you know what I mean? If something good came of it, I'll mention it. So for Saturday, we'll start with BRMs. That was the first day, and I can't remember if that was Friday or Thursday. They sometimes do it differently at different tracks. We'll start with BRM, and things got worse for them. The old V8 engine broke, and Graham Hill had to spectate as Stewart had the only other car still running. And even then, Stewart qualified a lowly ninth.
What a surprise. No, you're telling me that a car that had been in a museum with no maintenance didn't work, Luigi, and broke in the first session of qualifying. How did they even think that was a good idea?
I think it's desperate. Look, I didn't say museum, I said exhibition, first of all. So that doesn't necessarily make it better. I know that. But
from a nearby exhibition. That is hilarious.
Yeah. And remember Stewart? He was such a star in 65 in this BRM. What's he thinking right now? He's thinking, why did I sign with these guys for another year?
I'm driving cars out of a museum and I'm driving a car with like the most ridiculous engine ever known to man.
Yeah, and this team is going, as you call the museum, to get another engine.
Yes.
I mean, oh, geez. And isn't it interesting that Stewart was the one driving and Hill was the one spectating?
Yes.
Stewart's only in his second season and Hill's a 62 champion. I wonder what was going on with the politics there.
Yes.
So at the front of the grid, on the second day of practice, the Ferrari drivers could not improve their times. And it was only Clark who managed to get on the front row with a time of 1 minute 31.8. So pole actually went to Parks.
Wow.
The new guy.
Yes.
Followed by Scarfiotti in second. So Ferrari 1-2. Surtees in fourth. So Clark was, I think, third. And Bandini was fifth. So Bandini, you got to show the way with these newbies. You can't let them be in front of you.
We've got 3 out of 5 Ferraris. And
Yeah, it's impressive.
Surtees won his championship in a Ferrari.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting
And
psychology there, right?
and left Ferrari this season.
Yeah, through silly
Enzo's
politics.
pacing up and down.
Enzo's.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, and championship leader Jack Brabham was in 6th and Ginther in the Honda in 7th.
Okay, well, that Honda yeah, like I said, I think this is a power this circuit would have suited that Ferrari engine, and they came here with a bigger one as well.
So at race start, Clark made a poor start.
Oh.
So we had the Ferraris of Scarfiotti and Parks leading the field.
Wow, the crowd must have been going nuts.
Yeah. And they were even happier when Bandini's Ferrari moved up to 3rd before the first corner. So he made up a little bit for his lackluster qualifying.
Yeah.
So Bandini heard our feedback about you're the team leader, don't forget. And by the end of lap 1, and these are relatively short laps, remember, with a lot of slipstreaming, Bandini actually moved into the lead with Parks 2nd. And unfortunately, Scarfiotti had moved back to 7th behind Surtees, Ginther, Brabham and Holm.
Oh, that's what happened in that lap? He's gone, where was he? He was second. He went from 2nd to 7th. That's not a nonsense start, but it's something happened in that first lap.
True, but this is slipstreaming track, so you can gain as much as you can fall, I guess. Yes, and it can be all very quick either way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So BRM, bad news here as well. The team's efforts to get Hill's car running came to nothing as the H16 engine had blown up within half a lap of the race start.
Well, at least it started.
Maybe they could have gone to like the National Museum and gotten like an old, I don't know.
A 50s BRM engine. It probably would have lasted longer, actually, than half a lap.
Oh, gosh.
This H16 was such a train wreck. And I remember when I read these books as a teenager, you don't remember all the details, but I really remember this engine with clarity. I knew it was a disaster. So when I was rereading these books, I was like, oh, yeah, here we go again. Even the years of not reading this book did not dampen my memories of that H16 engine. So I'm just wondering if I ever become not a millionaire, if I become a billionaire, I have to be a billionaire to warrant what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
Then I will try and buy myself a BRM H16
What?
because I want to see what this thing's all about. I want to drive this thing.
I reckon there's better things to buy, Louis. I'll help you out.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely won't be getting my money back on it.
No.
And the person that sells it to me will be like, are you sure? Yeah. You have to buy this car and you have to buy this mechanic because they're going to live with you. Yeah. So there were early retirements in the race with Bonnier and Gurney out. At the front, however, Bandini's lead was short-lived as a fuel pipe broke on his Ferrari, along with Stewart, who also retired his BRM as the fuel was leaking into his cockpit.
Oh, now we're seeing a lot of fuel-related retirements. There's kind of like a little wave, isn't there? There's like transmission and clutch, and now it's fuel pump.
Yeah. That seems to be the common one. Fuel pump, fuel leaking into cockpit.
Fuel. Yeah.
Fuel pouring onto drivers.
Yes.
Yeah. Was it last year that Surtees had fuel leaking onto his feet and that made him slip on the pedal and that made him spin? Yeah, that was fuel. Yeah. So with 4 laps completed, so there's a bit of drama already, lots of retirements. The race had already had 4 different leaders, with the Ferrari pair of Bandini, Parks, as well as Surtees in the Cooper and Brabham taking turns in the lead.
Brabham. Interesting. He's got like the lowest powered engine and this is like a really fast circuit.
I know, and Brabham was now leading. And by lap 7, he was still in the lead. So to be in the lead means you're breaking the air for everyone else behind you. And so you'd think you need the more powerful engine for that. Thing is, though, the Repco engine was emitting an ominous blue smoke. And the very next lap, the Australian was in the pits, and this led to his retirement.
Oh, Luigi, we spoke too soon.
I know. He was pretty good of him to be up there with a car that really was not on the same level, right? So, yeah. So Parks in the Ferrari is now back in the lead, However, the first 7 cars were caught up in a typical Monza slipstreaming battle. Lap 10, for what it's worth, the order was, and that's why I say, because the order is somewhat irrelevant, but it gives you a picture, right? Parks was in the lead, so doing great in, I think, probably his 4th or 5th race. I can't remember exactly. Holm, Surtees, Scarfiotti, Clark, who had completed the first lap in 15th place, Ginther and Rindt. So Holm actually took the lead on lap 11. Now, he's in the Brabham, remember?
Yes.
albeit very slightly, with Parks back in front on lap 12.
Yes.
However, on lap 13, Scarfiotti took the lead and managed to hold his ground.
I mean, these slipstreaming battles are just awesome. So many changes of the lead and interactions of cars. Oh,
yeah.
We need the time portal to actually be a time machine, Louis.
Yeah, I know. And these cars had these drivers had a level of discipline and understanding to not take the risk of touching, because at these high speeds, remember, touching was a good chance of death.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And
So
some of the younger viewers wouldn't even know what slipstreaming is with modern cars.
That's true.
I know, they wouldn't be used to it, and I've never seen it either, to be honest. So I'm a younger viewer. I'm talking about myself here. This is an opportunity for me to talk about how young I am. So the leading group started to thin out, with Ginther and Clark retiring with car issues. In particular, Ginther in the new Honda, while in second place. He had his actual left rear tire throw a thread, so this instantly made his car fly off the track and into some trees. Amazingly, Ginther escaped injury, but the Honda was completely wrecked.
Where are we up to? What lap are we up to?
I think we're about lap 17.
Oh, so how many cars are left in this slipstreaming battle for the lead?
Yeah, 4. So that's still a lot. Yeah, so Scarfiotti in the Ferrari held on to his precarious lead ahead of Holm in the Brabham, who was no doubt leveraging the Ferrari's pace. Parks in the Ferrari and Surtees in the Cooper. And each driver was really struggling to get any advantage. So these 4 stayed tight until lap 32, when Surtees dove into the pits because fuel was spraying onto his tyres from a split fuel tank.
See, another fuel-related issue.
And onto your tyres.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want a match going off,
or a spark.
It'd look pretty cool, like cartoon, like the tyres on fire.
Yes.
Isn't that what the Hot Wheels logo is?
The Hot Wheels logo.
I wonder if this was the inspiration, the day that Surtees had fuel going onto his tyres. So there's more than fuel impact here, Rosa. Not only was Surtees out, essentially, it also guaranteed Brabham the World Championship, as Surtees was the only driver that could overhaul his points tally.
Wow, that is massive. Now, would Surtees have had a better go of this championship if he had not left Ferrari? That's the question. I wonder, really.
I think this will come through in the TP Championship, maybe, but I think at the end of the day, going to be hard even for us to decide in the TP Championship, because the reality is he didn't. He went to Cooper, and he doesn't get TP Championship points for what we think he would have done if he was in that Ferrari.
It is still.
Well, we could do that. There's no rules. We could do that, though. We could do the rest of the season if Surtees was in that Ferrari, because if Bandini's going to get on the podium, you'd say Surtees would be at least 1 or 2 positions ahead of wherever Bandini was.
I'm going to give it a little bit of thought.
Okay, let's check that out. So, to the race, we are still only halfway through the race. So, the drama of the race has sort of come and gone, to be honest.
Okay.
Scarfiotti had managed to build a 15-second lead. So that's pretty impressive, because he basically broke their slipstreaming attack, you know?
Yep.
And by race end, he actually ended up winning the race by 5.8 seconds, as he obviously eased off towards the end. He obviously had to make sure he didn't get close enough to enable the slipstreaming to start again. However, the duel for second place raged on to the bitter end, so that became the slipstreaming battle, with Parks taking second by just 0.3 seconds ahead of Holm. Rindt finished 4th, despite finishing the race with a flat tyre on the last lap.
Wow. So a Ferrari 1-2. I can only imagine what that would have done to the crowd here. And it was actually the first time that an Italian driver had won the Italian Grand Prix since Ferrari in 1952, Louis.
Oh, that is unbelievable.
That's
Wow.
14 years. Yeah.
And in the Ferrari and a 1-2.
And a 1-2. Yep. Wow.
Yeah. Well, reason to celebrate. Also, a reason to, acknowledge this was Scarfiotti's one and only win. And I guess, while that might seem a little bit sad, that's more F1 wins that I've ever got. I guess if you're going to win just one race, this was it.
If you're Italian,
win in Italy, in a Ferrari, leading a 1-2. And funnily enough, he was also declared the number one Italian driver in 1962 and 1965.
Ooh.
So poor Bandini.
Bandini will always be the number one driver in 1964 for me.
Yes, of course. See, I'm doing everything I can to discredit Bandini by flagging that. Yeah, even though Scarfiotti wasn't even in Formula One, I think he was still the number one driver.
Okay.
But one thing I'll give Bandini, he's got a cooler name.
Does, yeah. And there's an award named after him.
That's right. You talked about that in the 64 TP Championship, as if it was implying some credibility, if I recall correctly.
Given to people who have great integrity on how they go about their racing.
Yeah. The whole PR campaign of trying to whitewash that whole 64.
So, to the championship standings, how many races we got left? 2?
Let me have a quick look. We're up to 2 more races to go.
All right, so with 2 more races, we've got Jack Brabham in the lead on 39, Jochen Rindt second on 18, Graham Hill 17 in third, and Surtees 15, and then Jackie Stewart on 14. And so Brabham Repco in the lead on the constructors on 40 points, with Ferrari second on 31 and BRM third on 22. But you've pretty much just said that Jack Brabham's just won the title now anyway, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, we haven't. I mentioned it during the race.
During the race, because no one can catch him now.
Correct. And pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So good on him for that. And,
literally, that's just happened over like 4 races.
Yeah, he just went on a dominance.
Like on a spree. Yeah. Exactly. Because he was nowhere in the first 3. Yeah. Really been from race 4 to 7 or 4 to 8 that he's.
And he's got a record by winning this championship in 66. He's got a record that I'm pretty certain will never, ever be broken, which is winning a championship in a car of your own making. Okay. That's just not going to happen anymore, because you have to be a multi-millionaire, billionaire to own a team and drive and be young enough to drive.
Lawrence Stroll. Does Lance Stroll count?
No, because it's his dad's team. I guess, you know what the only exception is? If his dad passes away and the team is handed to him, but then the problem is he has to actually win. No, that's not going to happen.
I think there's a few drivers ahead of him.
Yeah, there's a few drivers ahead of him. So, unless he...
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's going to happen. Yeah.
All right.
Race 8 of 9, the United States Grand Prix. Watkins Glen, 2nd of October, 108 laps, 19 drivers, and a 2x2 grid formation. So, with the championship decided, the USA Grand Prix still drew a solid set of teams to participate. And instead of allocating prize money, the organisers instead offered money according to the finishing order, which is interesting, with US $20,000 offered for the winner, and funds offered all the way down to last place. So I think Formula One's a little bit like that now, but this is the first time we've heard them talk about this sort of thing.
Formula One like that now? No, not down.
Yeah, I think
all the way down to last place.
Money. Yeah, they all get a share of the pot.
Okay, all right.
I don't know if it's every race. It could be end of the season.
Yeah, I think it's end of the season. I don't think it's every. It depends where you finish in the championship, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
It's
There might be something for the races. A lot of that's quite secretive, I think.
I think the races would be paid by the teams on their bonuses or performances and stuff. But such
Yeah,
an
yeah.
American way. It kind of to
Yeah.
me, it kinda cheapens it a bit, funnily enough.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I worked this out. It's $192,000 US in today's dollars.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money to
Mhm.
pay out to the winner, but it does show
Yeah.
how much Formula One costs have exploded well and truly above inflation.
Yeah, that is, yeah, it doesn't sound like
Doesn't
much
sound
really,
like a
does it?
lot today.
But yeah, $192,000. That's the catering for first practice in one race, you
Right,
know?
exactly. That's their new merch that you
Yeah,
wear
yeah,
on a weekend in
yeah.
Spa, exactly.
Mm. So on the first day of practice, there was little activity. However, in the last 30 minutes, there was a flurry as 3 drivers broke the average speed of 120 miles per hour. So that was a bit of a mental barrier, maybe. And these drivers were Bandini in the Ferrari, Surtees in the Cooper, and Hill in the BRM. I wonder what he was driving, that BRM, what engine it had.
Yes.
I wonder if they were persevering with that exhibition engine.
Oh.
You know what they probably did? They said, "Oh, here's your exhibition BRM back," and they put the H16 in there
No,
and
it
kept
didn't.
the other
The
engine.
exhibition BRM exploded halfway through the
Yeah.
first lap. It's not that
It
exhibition one. Oh,
Oh, that's right.
it
Yeah, they
exploded
did.
because,
Yeah.
it had been in exhibition.
Yeah, but I still think they preferred that over the
Yes. Yeah.
H16, and they probably gave the H16 engine BRM back, and the exhibition people looked under the hood and said, "No, no, this isn't the engine we gave you. You give us back
Yeah,
the other
that's
engine." They're
right.
not even driving it, but they still don't want the H16.
Odd.
Anyway, so these times are pretty tight between those 3 drivers because on the second day of practice, Brabham secured pole with a time of 1 minute 18.4, with Clark second 1 minute 18.53, and Bandini 1 minute 18.57.
They are tight, and it looks like these new engines are just getting going now. Like, there's a new engine. Oh, is there yet? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, the further the season's gone, the tighter it's become. I can only
Yeah,
say that
true.
engines have had a part to play in that.
Yeah. So after qualifying, there was much consternation in the Lotus camp. Clark has set his time in the Lotus 43 with the H16 engine, but the engine was unreliable. In
Yep.
fact, it had broken right at the end of practice. So it was decided to take a risk and use a spare H16 engine.
Oh,
Arundel and the other Lotus started in last place using the Lotus with the old Climax engine.
hang on. They just switched out a lemon for a newer lemon.
Yeah, so it seems.
Yeah. I'm not sure
And poor Arundel's at the back with the
I'm not sure
underpowered
who I
Lotus.
feel more sorry for, Clark gambling on a H16 or Arundel starting at the back in the old Climax engine.
Yeah.
That's bad
I don't
times.
know. I think I'd go with the starting in the back.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least you've got a chance to finish in the points if there's
Yes.
lots of retirements and
Exactly.
stuff. So, yeah. And didn't Clark nearly win a race, or did he win a race? No, he didn't win a race, but he was up there with that Lotus. And was that the
Yeah.
Monaco race?
Right at the end, he had problems with it.
Yeah, that's right. He was catching up and then he had an issue. Yeah. So to the race start, Bandini actually, so remember Brabham had pole. To the race start, Bandini shot into the lead from third place. Clark took second, and Ginther in the Honda made a strong start from eighth to go into third. And Brabham was down into fourth. So Ginther's strong start was short-lived because on lap 7, he was in 12th place as he suffered gear selecting difficulties.
Yeah, and I
Like
don't
just
think that's driver related. That would be car.
No. Yeah. So meanwhile, there was some drama back in the pack as McLaren, who was last after the first lap, had an anxious moment when overtaking Rodriguez in the Lotus. The cars touched, and while the McLaren was undamaged, the Lotus had its nose section ripped off and caused his retirement.
Lotus was always very, very sensitive, wasn't it?
Yeah. This had the domino effect of disqualifying Bondurant, so he gets another mention, who in avoiding action to avoid the clash between McLaren and Rodriguez, got external assistance, which caused his disqualification.
Oh.
And we all know that external assistance is the number one rule that they like to focus on.
That when they don't and allow people to finish the race after getting pushed. Was that Hill? Remember?
I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a questionable one, and he had to.
Yeah.
What was it? He got a penalty. What was the penalty? If I recall correctly,
Yeah,
it
he
was
got
something unusual. It was an
pushed.
unusual.
And
He got an unusual penalty, pushed back one position,
Yeah,
or
he got pushed, and then they allowed him to finish the race, but didn't give him the
and
points.
then they disqualified
Yeah,
him.
they
That's
got
right.
his
Yeah,
place, but he didn't get the points.
that's right. Which was
Weird.
silly.
Yeah.
Mm.
Anyway,
So, I've lost where I was up to now.
you're up to the
Okay, up to
lap 10. We're up to
front lap 10.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
up to lap 10.
Brabham had taken the lead from Bandini, so he's certainly not resting on his laurels as a new champion. But the top three were virtually nose to tail, with Brabham, Bandini, and Surtees really tight, and Clark was just a little further back. On lap 17, though, as the drivers were lapping Arundel in the Lotus, so the underpowered Lotus, Surtees and the Cooper collided with the Lotus, and both cars spun off, essentially putting them both out of race contention.
Okay. I think what you mean is that Surtees got out of race contention. Arundel was being lapped. Yes. I don't think he was ever in.
Yeah, he was already out of contention, yeah. He just decided to take a big name with him.
It's just official from now on, from then.
Yeah. Well, technically what I said was right. I never said Arundel was in race contention.
Fine.
Yeah. So between laps 17 to 21, even more retirements took place, with Holm, Brabham, Hill, BRM, and Gurney Eagle all retiring for one reason or another. So while this was going on, Bandini regained the lead from Brabham, with this pair driving nose to tail up until lap 35. And this is when Bandini's engine blew and he was out.
Oh no, poor Bandini. He becomes team leader, and now he's out.
Yeah. And he didn't win the one race that was really special at Monza. I think he may have been better off if Surtees stayed, because Scarfiotti wouldn't have been there.
No, that's right. Yeah. I know you're enjoying this. I know you're enjoying poor Bandini's luck, Luigi. You don't have to try and hide it.
Yeah, it's called karma, Rosa. That's what it's called. So Brabham was in the lead by 14 seconds ahead of Clark. So obviously with Bandini gone, there's a bit of a gap. With Stewart in the BRM up to third, a further 14 seconds back.
Okay, I have a bad feeling about that Lotus with the H engine.
Yeah, and I don't even know if Stewart's also got the H16.
Yes,
he's in the BRM. Which invented the H16. So he might also have a problem unless they've fixed that exhibition engine. They don't talk about it. So yeah. So at half distance, I mean, if there's some H16 engine lovers, they are really upset with this episode. We're giving it such a hard time. But hey, don't forget, I'm the one that said if I'm a billionaire, I'll buy
one. Yes.
Yeah. So at half distance, Brabham's lead of Clark stabilized at 14 seconds. Then things started to change very quickly.
Hey, this is my favorite time of the race. Bandini's already gone. What happens?
Yeah. Well, Hill in the BRM retired after a mechanical issue. Then Stewart in the BRM retired with a broken engine.
I'm going to put both of those issues down to the H16.
Yeah. So on lap 56, Brabham went into the pits also with an engine issue, the ever reliable Repco engine. Yeah. So suddenly Clark in the Lotus was in the lead with almost 60 seconds in hand over Rindt in the Cooper.
But that's good. I'm happy that Clark got the lead.
Yeah, and he hasn't been in the lead much this season. So with Clark well out front in the lead on his own, attention turned to the battle for third place. At about lap 66 out of 108, McLaren in the McLaren was catching Siffert in the Cooper, and Surtees in the Cooper was catching both of them, as well as the race leader. But obviously Clark was way ahead. Surtees not only took third place, but then proceeded to unlap himself from Clark. This left Siffert and McLaren to have a spirited duel for fourth between themselves to the end of the race, with Siffert taking it by a car length.
Oh, Surtees really was in a zone. That would have been so exciting to watch.
Yeah, he was really on form, and that's the whole dilemma of the TP Championship, because he was in a zone. If he was in that Ferrari, a better car, who knows? I still think Brabham would have won the championship anyway, to be honest. On the last lap, Rindt had another dramatic experience because you may recall in the last lap of Italy, he had a flat tire, which, gave him a bit of anxiousness towards the end. He ran out of fuel. And as it took over 2.5 minutes to complete the lap, 2.5 minutes, it meant that he was lapped by Clark, which actually saved him as he only needed to complete 107 laps instead of the 108 to be classified. So he basically secured a second place.
So a very lucky second place.
Yeah. So Clark wins the race. The first win for the H16 engine. Isn't that unbelievable? They win a race. That's the car I want to buy. I want to buy the Lotus, the one that won a race, yeah. Rindt was second, Surtees third, and Siffert edging McLaren in the McLaren for fourth.
That engine failure of Bandini's Ferrari meant that Brabham now can't be caught in the Constructors' Championship with only the Mexican Grand Prix left in the season. So it gives him a very unique double, world drivers and constructors in a car of his own making.
This is the only win ever for a 16-cylinder engine in a Formula One World Championship.
Wow.
66 has got all the trivia questions.
It does, yeah.
The challenge I have is if you invite me to a trivia night and think you've got it in the bag, the best I'm going to do is have a vague memory. No. And they're probably going to word it like, the H16, I'll remember this one, right? Because it's a bit more burnt in. But there's so many stats in this season that are just unbelievable.
Yeah, everything blends in after a while.
Yeah.
Okay, so not that it really matters, but yeah, Jack Brabham on 39, Jochen Rindt on 22, ahead of his teammate John Surtees on 19, and then we've got Graham Hill on 17 and Jim Clark on 16. And yeah, the Brabhams on 40 and the Brabham Repco on 40 and Ferrari on 31.
Okay. So we're up to race 9 of 9, the last race of the season in what has felt like a very long season.
Hasn't it?
So I hope you listeners are enjoying it. Well, I'm enjoying doing it.
Yeah, me too.
But it's really interesting this season, isn't it? And considering it was sort of dominated by Brabham after all, it's still been really interesting. So many other things have happened. So Mexico City, October 23, 65 laps. 18 drivers with 19 participating in a grid formation of 2x2x2. As is normally the case, Ferrari chose not to enter this race.
Look, there probably wasn't enough prize money for the race. I don't know. But Enzo does this a bit, doesn't he? He skips the last race or so when there's nothing on the line.
I know. And I think of it in a different way. I guess it makes smart business.
It is smart.
Because he's saving all the freight costs.
Yes.
And Mexico's far away, but the United States Grand Prix is not that far from Mexico. So it was...
Yeah.
I just think he probably just doesn't... I mean, he's also rejected the US Grand Prix many a time, and you'd think that would be an important market to sell Ferrari sports cars,
Enzo is...
Mexico, maybe less so.
Yes.
Maybe less rich people in Mexico versus the US.
No, I think Enzo just sees himself as bigger than anything else in the world. Enzo and Ferrari.
And he's probably right.
Yes.
He's probably right.
And it's true. Ferrari has survived.
Yeah. Yeah. And that comes with that heritage. So, yeah. So to practice, the teams face the usual challenges that go with Mexico, which includes not only altitude, but also stray dogs.
Mean safety stray dogs?
Yeah. No, I don't mean safety stray dogs.
That was too far. I'm sorry to all the dog lovers out there. But in fairness, Luigi wrote that in the script for me, so it was not my idea.
Oh, you had to throw me under the bus. Wow, you meant to wear that.
I don't want the dog lovers to hate me.
I was about to start having a go at you about dogs. Now you've made me look bad. Look, the dogs were there placed strategically. No, I'm joking. No, but that just shows how not controlled it was. You don't see that many times in Formula One nowadays. So the reason why I do make the comment, though, is Arundel in the Lotus actually hit one, which bent his steering arm, damaged his nose cone, and he was lucky to get away with it, to be honest.
Sounds like you're more worried about the car than the dog, Louis.
Well, to be honest, I'm more of a cat person than a dog person, but that doesn't mean I'm anti-dog.
Good.
Yeah, and it wasn't advised if the stray dog survived,
Oh.
but I think we can safely say that this dog did pass away, and as is the norm, I'd like to give this stray dog the due attention for making the ultimate sacrifice. No, we're joking. It's not
No.
serious, of course.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
still sad. I mean, they're still living creatures,
Yeah.
and I guess, yeah, culturally, it's difficult in countries where there's such a big problem of strays and things like that. So, but
Yeah.
yes, I think we should give our respect to the dog who died.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if the governing body or the race authorities would stop the race for a stray dog death, but they won't stop it for a human. So it's like
Oh,
it's a bit of
that's a big call. Who knows?
yeah. Who knows? But it wouldn't surprise me the inconsistency of it all, right? So yeah. So anyway, to the race itself, or on the remainder of practice. So again, we are joking. We do love dogs, and it's just sad that happened. What I can say, hopefully, is hopefully that stray dog did pass fast. And
Yes.
that's what I expect would have happened. That's a positive if you're going to draw some positive out of it. So on the first day of practice, there was a battle between Clark in the Lotus and Brabham in the Brabham, who were exchanging fastest laps, while Holm was in third place, or third fastest in the practice. Then of some surprise was that the BRMs of Stewart and Hill were well off the pace in 11th and 16th place. And the BRMs did not fare much better in their final qualifying, with neither driver getting into the top 7 after all.
Well, I'm hoping that is the retirement of the H16 for BRM. Surely they don't pursue it any further. That has been nothing but trouble. I'm not even sure how it won that last race. It's only because it was in the hands of Clark, and only he could do it, probably because he's a gun.
Yeah. Well, in some respects, that H16 engine, and I agree with you, I think Clark was the one that won that race, not the H16 engine. He was just lucky that the engine held on for the whole race. Do you remember back in the late 50s when Enzo Ferrari was fully against the rear engine cars?
Yes.
And then Ferrari managed to snag a front engine car win. And we were like, oh no, this is going to put Ferrari back at least a year because he's going to feel validated by that victory.
Exactly, yes.
I hope the H16 win in the last race doesn't nurture that validation of let's persevere with this. I can't remember, to be honest, but that Clark win might have some unintended consequences.
Yes.
So on the final day of practice, Clark got down to 1 minute 53.5 and pole seemed secure until Surtees set an even better time of 1 minute 53.18, which is quite a bit faster in, basically not the best car. He set this time, then needed an engine repair, so he set pole just in time. So Ginther got third fastest, followed by Brabham in fourth, and Gurney in the Eagle chose to drive the Eagle Climax for this race. So didn't even stick with the Westlake, even though it was available, as the Westlake was giving him troubles.
Well, not only did this engine come late, it came with problems. It's like an H16 Mini-Me.
Yeah.
A lime, not a lemon.
Yeah. This is not as exciting and dramatic.
No.
Yeah, let's see if he goes and wins this race now. With that,
yes.
Oh no, he's driving the old engine, so it doesn't count. Yeah, he has to be in the Westlake to do that. Yeah, so at race start, Ginther actually made an amazing start from third and stormed into the lead by the first corner.
Exactly what Ginther did in 1965. I wonder if Luigi will give Ginther first place in the TP rankings.
Yeah, so let's see. Behind Ginther, in typical nose-to-tail formation, were Rindt in the Cooper, Brabham, Holm Brabham. This sounds funny to say that. Surtees in the Cooper and Clark in the Lotus. Maybe when I say Brabham, I need to say Brabham in the Brabham.
Oh, yes, you do like saying Brabham. It's like broom broom.
Yeah, that's right.
What happened to Surtees and Clark? They were on the front row and now they're fifth and sixth.
Yeah. So... yeah, I don't know what happened. They must have just had a bit of not enough to be called a nonsense start is what I'm saying. It's the only thing I can say. Yeah. So by lap 2, Brabham passed Rindt for second place, but also managed to outbrake Ginther to take the lead. So pretty good driving by the champion who doesn't need these wins or points. Lap 3, Ginther lost ground to Rindt, or further ground to Rindt, Surtees and Holm, and even Stewart got ahead a lap later.
Oh, we always see Ginther slide back from these great positions. Like, I'm sure that car was not able to handle the pace.
Or maybe he just didn't have the pace. And we see that a lot in current 2024 Formula One. Some drivers, I'll pick a driver that's maybe more the 2017 to 2020 era. I'm going to refer to Bottas.
Yes.
He was always up there, but he just didn't have race pace. And every time an opportunity came for his teammate, he just haul him in, pass him, no problems. Almost clockwork. So some drivers just don't have it. And that's not a criticism of Ginther. He's still awesome to be, even in Formula One. And he wins races sometimes too. Yeah. So the pace up front was frantic, for by lap 5, Surtees, the pole getter, found his groove and forged his way into the lead by passing Brabham after passing everyone else in between. So by lap 10, Surtees now had a 1.5 second lead over Brabham, and Rindt was holding on to third. The leading group started to thin out, though, as Clark retired with a broken gear selector, and the cars found their natural sort of positions when things settled down. By lap 25, Surtees was controlling the race by a small margin ahead of Brabham. Stewart had retired after a charge and passing Rindt for third, and Hill retired with engine issues.
Oh, no comment. What I'm going to say is both BRM drivers.
Yeah, 100%. I want the Lotus H16, not the BRM H16. Just saying. I want the one that won that race with Clark. Wonder if you could even buy it. I wonder if it's around. It might be in a museum somewhere. Yeah, for someone to drive it urgently. So Rodriguez in the Lotus, the Mexican, driving for the home crowd, was someone to pay attention to. For he passed Holm for fourth, and then when Rindt retired with a suspension problem, he found himself in third place. So I can only imagine the crowd.
Yes.
Yeah. The race was now at half distance mark, and only 10 cars were left. Surtees' lead over Brabham had grown to 5 seconds, and Rodriguez was still third, half a lap behind. Unfortunately, on lap 49, and remember this is a 65-lap race, Rodriguez retired with a car fault.
Oh,
it's a real pity.
Bummer.
So, and that's really disappointing, because there's not too many Mexican drivers in the history of Formula One. Obviously, we have a really good one in 2024 in Perez. And when I say really good, good,
yes,
but he's having his challenges in that Red Bull team. But that's another topic. But so Rodriguez is seen as a legend, and I think the actual Mexican Grand Prix is named after him. The track,
yes, I think
is that right?
Yes,
yeah, it is. Yeah. What is it? Him? Or is it his brother?
Yeah, I think it is him. I don't know.
This guy does more than it. Is his brother only did 4 or 5 races?
I think this guy does a bit more.
Killed.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's
this
Ricardo.
Yeah.
So this left Ginther in third, ahead of a fast charging Holm. Ginther wanting this position sped up. I think everyone wants a better position.
Podium.
And even set the fastest lap of the race. However, Holm was not to be outdone, and with just 2 laps to go, he passed Ginther to take third place.
That would have been a great battle. I'm sure Ginther wanted to make up for the frustration of not being able to keep up with the rest of the field in that early part of the race.
Yeah. So Surtees, meanwhile, continued to stretch his lead, but it wasn't a huge lead, as he crossed the line 7.9 seconds ahead of Brabham in second. This was Surtees' first victory for his new Cooper team, Holm third, and with Brabham second, and Ginther in fourth place.
Oh, I can't believe Surtees won a race in that Cooper.
Yeah, where's your win, Rindt?
Come on.
Yeah.
Okay, so the end of the season standings are Jack Brabham in first place on 42 points with a maximum of 45. John Surtees second on 28 points.
Wow.
I mean, it's still a fair way off the leader on 42, and Jochen Rindt on 22 with a maximum of 24. Denny Holm on 18 and Graham Hill on 17. And on the constructors, Brabham Repco on 42 with a maximum of 49. Ferrari 31 with a maximum of 32. Cooper on 30, but with a maximum of 35.
They did not too bad, and
Yeah.
a lot of heavy lifting by John Surtees.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah, so on to our wrap up, Louis.
Yeah, so I guess some comments I had was, firstly, amazing result by Jack Brabham. He really set up that championship victory with his run of 4 victories from France to Germany. And he was competitive even after that. He kept gunning it. Even in this last race, he came second in that Mexican race. He did a great strategy by picking up a more reliable engine, which gave his car a massive advantage over the rest.
Yeah, I agree. Like he's just proving to be a great team manager, owner, as well as mechanic and engineer and driver. Like, is there anything he can't do at this point?
Yeah, I know.
Comedian,
Yeah.
media, Ryler.
Yeah, that was
That
awesome,
was
right? And
amazing.
if he was doing that in our current era of
Yeah.
2024, he would be
Hero.
he'd be the equivalent of Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel Ricciardo's
Yes,
got a very big
yes.
social media presence. That would have got so much that would have gone viral big time, him doing that trick at the, Dutch Grand Prix,
And like
the little old man trick.
like I said, I read the Jack Brabham, the book that he wrote,
Mhm.
and yeah, it was he actually half designed that engine for Repco as well. Like,
Oh, wow.
yeah, he just took over that whole process. So, like I said, is there anything?
Yeah, and you know what the funny thing is, and we'll talk about this maybe when we do a review of the '60s
Mm.
decade and all that sort of thing. Not many people put Jack Brabham as their number
Oh, I
1, but it's
know.
hard to see why not. Like, why don't we? Because he was a remarkable person.
Absolutely.
Maybe he was so good that we take for granted
Yes.
what he was doing and what he achieved. Because, yeah, like you said, if he half designed the engine
Yes.
and drove the
Yes.
thing to win,
Yeah.
it's remarkable. And persistence. To not win for 6 years, he didn't give
I was
up.
just about to say, we have to remember this is 6 years from when he actually took Cooper to their 2 championships as well. And
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
a lot of that development of that engine, because that was in the monocoque era and all of that, he did that.
Mm,
Like, remember he was the
yeah,
reason he left Cooper was that he found the owner and the engineer too conservative, and they wouldn't take chances to
yeah,
develop their engine in their car. So,
yeah, yeah.
I just, yeah, he's had an unbelievable impact and a huge career. So, yeah, I am surprised that many people don't put him up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Guess being
And
Australian doesn't help.
yeah, lower
Yeah.
profile, not a
Yeah.
not a huge population country. And, the last couple of things I was just gonna say about it is I wonder if this championship would have looked different if Surtees had stayed at Ferrari. I don't think so. I think Brabham still would have won,
Yes.
but maybe by less.
Probably. Yeah.
And I also wonder if Gurney would have become the world champion, because Gurney had left Brabham, to do his own Westlake,
Yes.
Eagle team, and I think he was generally faster than
Yes.
Brabham. And I think Gurney may have missed the championship in '66. If he'd stayed with Brabham, he would have beaten Brabham. And I think Brabham would have actually not stopped it.
Mm,
Brabham would have been like, I've got this driver that's faster than
mm.
me. And he may have even stepped back earlier
Well, we
and
did
said, oh,
see in '65 that Brabham really juggling the team owner, team manager role as well as a driver
yeah,
role. So, yeah, and
yeah, yeah.
Gurney took that Brabham in 1965. He took it to the podium quite a
Oh, he
number.
won
He
races.
did,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
look,
So what about you, Razor? What's your
well, I
takeouts?
think Ferrari suffered without Surtees there. I think he would have
Mm,
challenged for the championship. You're right. Look, given the gap, I don't know that he would have um, won it, but he came second,
yeah,
third, and first in that Cooper, which he would have matched
yeah,
at least driving the Ferrari. Like,
yeah.
the Ferrari was a better car than the Cooper, and then they had that upgrade
Mm,
as well. So I think that was just bad management by Dragon or Dragoni, whatever his
mhm,
name was.
yeah.
Losing your number 1 driver over trying to please some bigwig, like that politics was
Ah,
just that's another Ferrari mistake, I think.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
totally.
like I said, I think you're right. I think Brabham's car and his engine was too good in the end. But,
Mm,
you don't know. Pressure does a lot of things. It
yeah,
it changes how people drive and a whole bunch of stuff might have turned out different. So
mm,
this was Brabham's 3rd drivers' championship, as we've said, and it actually moves him into 2nd place in the record books behind Fangio. He has 5.
yeah,
And, yeah, we've already said he's got You know, he's become the first, and I think I agree with you. He'll be the only driver to win the championship, and not only the drivers' championship, the constructors in his own car. And it's also the first time that a non-European or British car had won the championship, because technically it's Australian.
Oh, interesting point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And winning his third title at the age of 41, mind you, earned him an OBE, and he would later become the first knight of the sport. So nowadays we've got Sir Lewis Hamilton, we've got Sir Jackie Stewart, but he was the first Sir. He was the first Sir Jack Brabham.
Wow, that's impressive. That's really impressive. And apparently what's really funny is after receiving his OBE at Buckingham Palace, his car wouldn't start, so he had to repair it in his tuxedo, which is such a Jack Brabham thing, you know?
That is so Australian. That is awesome.
He would have had oil on his hands, no doubt, with the Queen, you know?
That is funny.
Yeah.
All right. So for more stories like that, as well as the racing and, of course, our scintillating banter, Luigi, join us next week for the 19th.
The TP season.
Well, next week is, I guess the next week is the TP championship for 1960.
Yeah, does Brabham win it in our hearts like he's won
the
it in real
people's
life?
champion.
We will see.
Yes.
We will see.
All right. See you. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. See ya.
We have a Patreon.
Yay, we're a professional podcast now. So it means a lot to us if you are able to support the F1 Time Portal podcast.
For a small monthly fee, you not only get ad-free podcast content, you will also receive special episodes that are exclusively uploaded for our Patreon financial supporters.
We promise at least 2 additional exclusive episodes each month, aligned to the decade we are up to in the show.
And you will also be able to make suggestions about any special episodes you may want us to research and present. We can't promise that we can do all of them, but we will consider them.
So, if that sounds like an entertainment bargain to you, go and sign up at patreon.com/F1 Time Portal today.
If you're enjoying our podcast, please tell your friends and non-F1 friends alike.
Yeah, and don't forget to rate us 5 stars or whatever highest is available on the podcast platform that you use.
We have a range of social media handles for you to connect with fellow listeners, so look up F1 Time Portal on all the usual platforms.
Or visit us at www.f1timeportal.com or email us at f1timeportal@gmail.com.
We would like to give credit to our primary reference materials, a series of books called Grand Prix by Mike Lang.
We also use many other written and digital references, which are in our show notes.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.